Ringgit to $1. Ringgit has fallen to one of the lowest points since 1997. It is named as one of the worst performing currency in Asia after the Japanese yen. How embarrassing. Many Malaysians are worried about the effects that this will bring. Does it mean that in future things are going to be much more expensive? Is Malaysia actually doing okay or not? Are our business going to be fine? Is Malaysia government failing? What is really happening? Can't the government do something about this? In this channel, we've mentioned a couple of times that this time round, the ringgit devaluing is not really the ringgit's fault. Actually, it's the US fault. Yes, because the Fed has been increasing their interest rate to combat inflation. So with a higher interest rate, investors are more interested to put their money in USD to collect higher interest rate, therefore liquidating their Malaysian dollar and transferring their money into USD. This leads to a devaluing of Malaysian ringgit. But here's the question, right? If the problem is USD, then it should be every single country get affected ma. How come Malaysia is so bad? I see our neighbor Singapore, okay ma, still steady only. Why Malaysia like that? Well, in a way, you are right. Actually, this is due to the different approach between Malaysia government and Singapore government, the way we approach in managing our currency. But to understand this rather complicated topic, we first need to know why it's impossible to have a perfect solution to stabilize your currency. And in this case, ringgit. And this comes down to this concept called the impossible trinity. It's a concept in international economics that says that a country cannot have all these three things at the same time. What are these three things? A fixed foreign exchange rate, a free capital movement, and an independent monetary policy. And unfortunately, out of these three things, you can only choose two. Well, it's kind of like in life, right? It's unfair. You can't have everything. Like in university, you can either score very well in your results, or either party your friend, or either sleep a lot. And out of these three things, you can only choose two. Either you sleep a lot and get good result, or either you sleep a lot and party a lot, but you have to sacrifice the good result, or either you party a lot and you get good result and you sacrifice your sleep. Well, life is unfair. That's how it works. And this is the concept of the impossible trinity. You can't have everything. You gotta give up one to enjoy the benefits of the other two. So let's dive a little bit deeper on why you can't have these three. First, fixed exchange rate. If a country wants to fix their currency to another currency like the US dollar, which we have always been talking about, why not peg Malaysian ringgit to US dollar like last time Mahathir did? 3 ringgit and 80 cents for 1 USD. Simple, all problems solved. Now Malaysia got a stable currency. Well, the issue with that is Malaysia have to be ready to buy and sell our own currency to keep the exchange rate at the peg level. What this means, if suddenly there's a lot of people buying Malaysian ringgit and then pushing Malaysian ringgit price up, what happens is that the government must be ready to sell more Malaysian ringgit to push the price back down. However, if a lot of people are selling Malaysian ringgit, causing the devaluation of it, like this current case, Malaysia will need to have a lot of money to buy back Malaysian ringgit to push up the price back to the pegging level, which means Malaysian Reserve need to have a lot of money just to maintain our currency at a fixed exchange rate. Understand, right? If you enjoy economics and you like to stay updated to international and local news, go and check out the Coffee Break Daily Newsletter. Every day they will send a 3-minute summary of what happened the day before so that you can stay updated to all that's happening and be smarter in just 3 minutes. Go to the link below and check them out. Okay, let's get back to the topic. Let's move on to the second thing, the free capital movement, which means that investors can move their money in and out of our country without any restriction. If interest rates are high in one country, investors want to invest there, this means that investors can move their money in and out of the country without any restriction. I think Singapore is a perfect example where people can easily go in and invest and easily liquidate their assets and move out. The opposite of it is a country like China, where it's really difficult for you to bring your money in or take your money out of China. And the third part is actually independent monetary policy. This means a country is allowed to set its own interest rate to control inflation and stimulate the economy. This is like Malaysia setting its OPR and US setting their interest rate. So the big question is, why can't you have all three? Well, the simple answer is because they're going to come into conflict. Let's say today you're a country and you want to have free capital movement, which means investors can easily come in and out. And you want an independent monetary policy, which means you can set your own interest rate. With that, you won't be able to maintain a fixed exchange rate. Why? Because at the moment you set a higher interest rate, investors from overseas will look at this higher return and decide to move their capital over to your country and invest for the higher return. Therefore, this will push up the value of your currency. Because don't forget, you also wanted a free capital movement, so you allow anyone to just come in and invest ma. So because of that, you cannot fix your currency exchange rate lor. Jialat. Then now how to keep your exchange rate stable eh? Whenever people want to come in and invest, then your exchange rate go up. When people want to leave the country, then your exchange rate go down. Currency not stable. How can? Okay, there's a solution. If you want to have an exchange rate that's fixed, then now you have to give up your control of your interest rate lor. Focus on buying and selling your currency to maintain the fixed rate. Remember I said earlier, if let's say a lot of people come in, demand of ringgit higher, then you focus on selling ringgit to bring the price back down. If a lot of people selling ringgit to leave Malaysia, then what you do is focus on buying ringgit to prop Malaysian ringgit up. Get it? Get it? Okay, let's give you another example. Let's say today you want independent monetary policy, which is the ability to set your own interest rate and a fixed exchange rate, so your currency is stable all the time. With that, now you cannot allow free capital movement. Because if capital is free to move in and out, it will respond to the changes in your interest rate, which means that if you increase your interest rate, capital will come into your country, propping up the value of your currency. If your interest rate is too low, capital will move out of your country. This will cause a devaluation of your currency.
Which is what is happening now, is it?
Yes, which is what's happening now. So in order to have this fixed exchange rate, you have to control the flow of capital that's coming into your country and leaving your country. This is kind of like China, right? Now you know why it's so hard to bring in money into China and to leave China with your money? Okay, so my point is just this. In the real world economics, there's no perfect scenario. Every country will need to make trade-off and decide which two parts of this trinity that they value the most. For example, in US, they value free capital movement and independent monetary policy the most. So they allow their exchange rate to float. They are willing to give up the fixed exchange rate. On the other hand, in China, they prefer to have a fixed exchange rate so that the yuan is stable and an independent monetary policy so that they can control their own interest rate. But with that, they have to give up free capital inflow and outflow. So they hold a tight grip to the money going in and out. Ultimately, what's best? It really depends on the country and the leaders of the country. When it comes to Malaysia, to put it in the most simple form, I think we value free capital movement and monetary policy independence more, which means that capital can move in and out of Malaysia freely, but with regulation. And on the other hand, Bank Negara can also set our own interest rate to cater to the economic needs. In Malaysia, we control the ringgit via a managed float system. This means while they do not have a fixed exchange rate, our country will not allow the ringgit to float freely completely. If not, then the exchange rate today will be like that, tomorrow will be different, the day after that will be different. That is crazy. At the end of the day, Bank Negara will still observe the exchange rate and benchmark it against a certain standard. On the other hand, in Singapore, they take a different approach. For them, having a stable exchange rate and free capital movement is much more important than having an independent monetary policy. That's why in Singapore, you don't see the monetary authority setting any interest rate like Malaysia. Instead, to achieve a much more stable exchange rate, the government will buy or sell its currency in order to achieve its stability. This allows free flow of capital in and out of the country without any restriction. Well, at the end of the day, Singapore is a global financial hub. It is already a country that gained a lot of confidence among investors. So investors will naturally keep pouring in money into this country, right? And eventually propping up the currency. Well, they need the money to go in and they need a stable currency as well. Well, by now, some of you will say, why not we just follow and learn from Singapore and then do it their way? Well, honestly, I have no answer because this issue is just way too complex and way beyond my pay grade. It's out of my control. And since I don't really like to focus on what I can't control, and I prefer to focus on what I can control, I decided to ask myself, is there anything good that could potentially come out of this falling ringgit situation? Well, fortunately, there is. While falling ringgit could lead to some undesirable outcome in the short term, it could also lead to some great things in the long run, provided that the Malaysian economy is strong and we capitalize on this with the right policies. So here are some of the good things that could happen. First, you may end up getting a bigger bonus end of the year. Yes, you have not heard me wrong. This is because weaker ringgit makes Malaysian export cheaper and more competitive in the international market. So this could lead to a high demand in Malaysian goods, which can boost the country's manufacturing sector. And at the same time, since the company is exporting, means they are collecting money in USD, and with better exchange rate, means they just naturally earn more lah. If you work in this kind of company, maybe you get bigger bonus. That's hopefully your boss is not giam siap lah. Number 2, buatan Malaysia boleh. Well, with the weaker ringgit, imported goods are gonna be much more expensive. This will encourage consumers to switch to local-made products. So if you're a company that does buatan Malaysia, well, maybe it's time that you expand your footprint in Malaysia and penetrate the market, get higher market share. So again, if you're a businessman or you're working in a buatan Malaysia company, you have an opportunity to earn more money as well. Not to forget, businesses that used to get their supplies from overseas may be thinking about switching to local suppliers. So there's plenty of opportunity to make money out there. Oh yeah, not just that. This also means that it's going to be more expensive for Malaysian companies to hire expensive expats. Maybe instead of hiring an expat, you have the opportunity to get promoted into the position they always wanted. The third thing will be innovation. Well, imported goods are too expensive. So what happens is Malaysian may end up creating our own alternative. Well, we have already seen Malaysia having our own beluga caviar. We have already seen Malaysia having our own produced milk instead of using Australian fresh milk. At the end of the day, Malaysians are survivors and we are innovative people. When we face challenging situations, it will just force our local talents to create innovative solutions for it, and hopefully this leads to a creation of more businesses and more job opportunity. So those are my thoughts. What do you think? Tell us in the comments below.